right, so wildcard weekend came and went, and I really feel like the takeaways of this is really more so of, are we really seeing what you can really get out of a mediocre or the middling pack of quarterbacks? And by I say that, I was like, when it came push and shove, I was like, Patrick Mahomes did what he needed to do. Where it's like you can never count him out because you got Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen had to do what he had to do, and he was looking dynamic. It was you had to do, but that's why you felt like they could win the game because of that. CJ Stroud, even, he's a rookie. That's why I said even. But like, you felt like, oh, if they're gonna beat Cleveland, it's because of CJ Stroud. You had that confidence in him. That I was like the Rams with Goff and Stafford and stuff. That one's a little different. I was like, they're in that bucket, and even then you've seen Goff in that, and like he could, but then he sort of went to regress a bit in the like the game. Like he didn't play bad, but I'm saying like you could tell like the highs and being like, oh, okay, cool, nothing's happening or whatever. I think Stafford. I was like, while I think the talk of him is really overrated, I do think that his talent of a quarterback is off the charts. So I was like, he got more of the talent of passing the ball around and stuff like that, which I think sort of is like he's not in the middle of the pack, but he's not in the top tier either. He's just sort of in this little middle He's in a purgatory up between them. When we used to have the graphs in school and it was overlaying bubbles. He's like in that middle bubble. That's what he is. Uh, Pittsburgh, I was like, they had Mason Rudolph, which I mean, I was like, he's a backup quarterback, fringe starter kind of guy. Where you're just like, oh, we're drafting somebody. But I was like, but either way, you've seen where it's like we got to temper, like you didn't feel like, oh, you feel like Pittsburgh had to do everything right in order to get him. I was like, and then I was like, Baker Mayfield, I think is also in that middle impact, but I was like, but he was able to be the one that came out of it. He played fairly well. But I think with somebody, but I think in the other side of this coin, outside of Baker Mayfield being in like an anomaly of sorts, because we'll see how he does this weekend. Jalen Hurts, how you want to? Because we were talking about him like, oh man, he could be in the top like 5 so quarterbacks, and I'm not, and it's like that might be done well, but it's like top 10. Oh, okay, cool. Dak, same thing. Okay, he's very lead. He was an MVP conversation. I was like top 5, 6ish. Now it's kind of like, okay, maybe he has a peak. Tua has a peak. I was like, I hate to say it, but he got a peak. Um, I was like, Flacco doesn't count. I was like, that boy was enterprise. He's a rental. I was like, there ain't nothing else you got to talk about him. And yeah, so, but that's really the quarterback we're talking about is Tua, Dak, and Jalen. Now Tua, I think it's sort of different than the other two because we never propelled him to that. He was hurt last year, even though he looked good. This was his real first like full season. There was his, I was like he early on he was an MVP talk, but I was like he really had a receiver that's an MVP talk. I was like the offense is really good around him and stuff like that. So this is like his first year here, so therefore it's not necessarily he's not being compared to the same thing. Whereas Dak, who's had 4 or 5 years, uh, being talked about of like 15, 10, and going higher. Jalen, who in like the last like I want to say like 3 years, was like, okay, cool, he's your quarterback. Then it's like, oh, okay, now I was like, he's a top 5 quarterback, and it's like, okay, now he's kind of like top 15 quarterback. Okay, maybe that's a little harsh. Maybe he's in the top 10 because I'm like, or like there's probably at least like 15 so quarterbacks that you like are going to be with their team next year. So he can and I think outside of those two of those two and Tua, that this really more of a now we'll see how next round goes with like with throwing in Lamar in there and but this really is a middling quarterback thing. And I was like, and it's sort of is how the seasons went, where it's like, yes, there's been injuries and things like that, but for the most part, I don't think there's really any as special quarterbacks. And not saying you need a special quarterback, but I was like, it does go more to the point that everybody killed Cam on being like a game changer and a game manager type of thing, because you've seen Josh Allen is playing a game manager type of style, but you also seen how he's a game changer at the same time. Patrick Mahomes, he's game managing because he's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna throw it here, I'm gonna throw it here. My receivers ain't like that. I'm gonna throw it here, I'm gonna throw it here. But when things have to be done, a play where it's just like that scramble where he just take off for 17 yards that you wasn't expecting. I was like, that pass that is just like how he get in that window. That's where he comes in play. CJ Stroud, you've seen him like this whole game, and even this season. That guess what? Coming next year, we're going to talk about him in the top 10 range of quarterbacks. That's what it's going to be based off all his play here. Whereas like Dak, Tua, Hurts, I think they'll be like once you actually start ranking or whatever the quarterbacks, which really I was like, I'd rather have I like tiers more so. Then you kind of like, yeah, they're in like, I was like, Dak is probably like 8, and I was like, Hurts is probably like 10, and 2 was probably like 13. And that's on the top of my head. I'm not even like thinking about like necessarily the quarterbacks, but I can tell you like 6 or so I will want ahead of all of them. So in that mode, it's like, okay, cool, but I'm like, they're not game changers. I don't think none of them are game changers. Tua needs everything right. Dak needs everything right. Jalen Hurts had a chance to sort of be. We've seen him regress this year to where things were falling apart and he couldn't do anything really outside of whatever was going on. Because in a lot of those games, a lot of those close games, a lot of that stuff, I'm like, no, he should be able, if he's a game changer, he should be able to dictate a lot of those games in a way where you're just like, hey, I don't know how we made it out, but that's because we got Hurts back there. I was like, yeah, we got Hurts back there. Now, he over here being Hulu got live sports. That's not who they need. Another thing I think, but I was like, we'll see how the rest of this playoffs go, because, I mean, we could end up having, and like I said, I don't think golf. I think golf is not too far off with them as well too, because I think everything has to be perfect with him as well. Stafford to me is a game changer. Does it needs to be perfect? No, but it can't be all on him either. But that's why I said he's in that weird spot. But for the most part, I was like, and like I said, Baker. Somebody had to win that damn game, and Baker won. I was like, but we'll see in this next round where it's like, oh, and with Jordan Love, I think Jordan Love now has ascended into that top spot like CJ Stroud. There we go. I knew I was forgetting one more person. And it's Jordan Love. And I was like, the way he played, I'm like, no, he's going to end up being in that spot where it's like, no. Then that's why I sort of put Dak and Hurts later on, because I'm like, Jordan Love doesn't run, but his arm talent and is better than theirs, to where he can do things off his back foot and contorting his body that the other one just can't do. Like they're almost too stiff in a way. I don't know how to really say. Another thing I think too is that it's one of the weird things where it's like the defenses aren't what they look like. So this year to me, it seemed, I mean, especially in this playoffs, that the statistical spots of the defense ain't what the eye test says about the defense. And they sort of pointed out a lot of times where, like, Cleveland, man, they're one of the best in the league and all this other stuff. And they suck at home. I mean, they suck away. Like, hella suck. And it's like, okay. The Eagles, really good last year. Yes, they lost a couple of linebackers and stuff like that, but I feel like they pretty much brought the same people in. Brought in Kevin Byard, I like Shaq Leonard. I guess he's there to fill in a little bit of void, but you get what I'm saying. Like they still had their pass rush and stuff like that, and that's sort of where like play calling the person that's there is really helpful. Because I was like, they pretty much got the same people, and yet stank. Cowboy, you look at their numbers and like how everybody was talking about them, and it was like, oh, top defense. You know, you got one of the best pass rushers, a good pass rushing squad. I was like, they're not good on run defense, and they lost a couple of they lost like Van Der Esch and stuff. But it's like on the back end, even though they lost Trayvon Diggs, they was still not missing a step really on defense like that. And then they started just getting exposed, other than just running the ball. Cause I'm like, running the ball one thing, but you're getting your ass over here blown out up in the back. I'm just saying. So I think that's sort of been like a weird thing that we've been seeing. And also, I was like, you know what it is? It's like the offenses during the regular season is like how all these teams, like in the NBA or whatever, play like Golden State, where it's fast paced movement and all that other stuff. Then when the playoffs come, that bullshit don't work. Like all that fast stuff, like you've seen it with Miami, all that stuff, it works really great. We can run up and down all day. Then once it starts to get lockdown time, that bullshit don't work. We're here for it. Nope. We just ain't trying to spend the same. I was like, it's the same energy the same way. I was like, this is literally one to go home. That's a loss during the regular season. We might bounce back next week. This is one elimination. Bitch, we got all your shit locked up. So I think we're really starting to see like where it's like, okay, cool. Maybe people have started figuring out these offenses. That's just like, we're just going to have fans guns, or we're just going to do these mismatches when they're really the same play. That's like, nah. We're starting to figure that shit out. But anyway, I was like, that's what I feel like so far that we got for the playoffs is that I was like, the defenses aren't what they seem. I was like, how far can a middling quarterback get you versus that guy at quarterback? And these gimmicky offenses that kind of just like that tries to like really out like do too much without smart football. Not like trying to find loopholes and trying to figure out the game and stuff like that, but also being like you need big people to play football sometimes. Not this 190 person over here trying to take on this lineman. That's dumb. But anyway, that did my takeaways from so far this playoffs. We'll see how the next one goes. We'll see if any of these things hold up too. Because I was like, we're going to get more better defenses, and we're going to start getting a little bit better, more quarterback play. So we'll see if any of these holds up. Anyway, till next NFL.